We're going to examine the passive voice and how to translate it using the text in Cicero that we are reading. So I'm particularly looking at Deuce. This is the present passive infinitive. So that's where we're starting. So it's translated to be led, as opposed to the active, which would be to lead. All right, let's keep that in mind, that this has a context. And let me translate that whole thing, actually. It was necessary that you be led to death, Catiline, by an order of the consul. All right, so that's Cicero's claim. Let's see what we can do with that to explain the passive. So here I've just set up the vocabulary that we're using. We've got a few simple words here. Lead, duco, ducere, duxi, ductus. We can tell by the principal parts that this is third conjugation. And particularly these two elements here give us the present active stem, which is always a little tricky with the third conjugation. The expression to death, ad mortem, super easy. Or portet, this is a defective verb. It only has a third person singular. So it means it is necessary, which we use a lot, but it's funny when you come across it in Latin. And remember that names in Latin have declensions. You can see Catilina is a first declension noun. So let's go into this real slow. Let's say, we just want to say, Catiline is being led. We'll put Catiline in the nominative because he is the subject of that sentence, technically speaking. It's going to be third person singular, so it's ducitur. He is being led. There's that ending. Third person singular passive ending. Present stem. Catiline is being led. He is the subject. Now, we can go a little further here. Let's make this a more complicated sentence. Who's doing the leading? Well, it's the order. Iussu. By order of the consul. So the ablative is really the agent or the method by which the action is getting done. It's a little weird because even though this is the subject, this is the doer because it's passive. So let's take a look at this another way. The sentence really was by order of, let me pull this out a little, of the consul, consulis, like that. Okay, good enough. So the consul's the person doing it. All right. Let's change the sentence a little bit to make it active. Consul. All right, now you can see consul is nominative. That's a third declension noun. Consul, consulis, masculine. Consul, ducit. Oops, sorry about that. Ducit, Catilinam, ad mortem. All right. Well, take a look at that. Ask yourself, what does that say now? The consul leads Catiline to death. Now, the consul is the subject of the verb ducit. Catilinam is the object, and it's in the accusative. But in a sense, this is the same exact idea as the one above. It's just that this is active and this is passive. Catiline is being led. The consul leads Catiline. It's really a flip-flop of the thing. Now, if you get into the perfect passive, let's get a little imaginative here. Catilina ad mortem ducta est. Okay, it's done. Catilina has been led to death. Now we're using the perfect passive there. And you could go further. You could say erat here. Pluperfect passive. Now Catilina had been led to death. What if you had nos in here? Nos. We duxeramus. We had led. Okay, now that's the subject. We know Catilina is going to be the object, so he goes into the accusative. We had led Catilinam to death. So active and passive are really two shades of the same thing. In the active, let me spell that all out. In the active, the subject often acts upon the object. There's a direct line there. In the passive, the subject, it kind of whoop, gets a boomerang effect, is acted upon by an agent. And in Latin, that goes into the ablative. So I think that wraps up the passive. Any questions, just let me know.